Hello, this is Vanessa Love, and this is my channel about the mental health field and related topics, or not related topics. It's just me. So, I have heard throughout my life that there should be a license for people to have kids, and I kind of want to explore that today because my response has usually been I don't want the government deciding who does have kids and who doesn't have kids. But I want to expand on that. I don't want to just make that statement and then just be like, right? Um, so I like, there's a lot of things to consider, and then there's like a whole solution with a lot of nuances, which I think some of you are going to like and some of you are going to absolutely hate. So that's cool. All right. So if there was a license, right, to have kids, there's like a lot that goes into that. All right. Like, I'm a writer. I love creative writing. This is a creative writing topic, right? So now you like, okay, so you have like the Department of Motor Vehicles, right? You have the DMV. So now you have like the Department of Parenthood, right? So you have the DP. I didn't mean that. Sorry. Yeah, so you have the department, you have the parenting department, right? The PD, I guess. So, all right. There's a couple of things that you have to, I guess, figure out as to whether or not you want, like, first of all, are there benefits? How, like, what would be on a test to get your license to be a parent? How much would that cost? How much would a license for a parent, because it's, I mean, it's going to vary by state, which is fine, but like, how much does it cost? Just in general, like, is it like, it's like a fishing license where you pay, you go to the local game warden and like you find, like you pay the fee to get the fish and it's the fishing license, and then you fish for the day and come back. So like, is this like a $5 fee? Is this like a $150 fee for the year? Do you have to re-up every year? Is this like a 10-year thing? Do you have to have a license for each kid? Or do you have a license and then it covers you like a car? Like you can get into any car and drive. Like you have your parenting license, now you can have any kid. Is there an age, not a limit, but like, I mean, maybe a limit. Is there an age limit? Is there a minimum age to get your license? What is the fee for someone who has a child without having their license? Or are there special circumstances where, like, a 10-year-old gets pregnant, because that happens every day. Yeah, about 300 10-year-olds get pregnant every year. And so that means one a day on average. And I'm going to guess that most of the people who are the fathers of the 10-year-olds, or not of the babies that the 10-year-old is pregnant with, are probably not also 10. Just a wild guess there, because most teenage pregnancies, the father is usually older, like in that teenage pregnancy. So I'm gonna guess it's the same for a 10-year-old. Like, is that a special circumstance? Is that a special circumstance enough to have a license in that case? Does the license give you permission to have maybe discounted baby items, or get you some sort of something? Can I go in and unlicensed and buy Pampers, right, diapers, at the store? Do I need a license for that? Like, is there like exclusivity now? Because if you're not a parent, you probably shouldn't be buying them. But like, also, if I decide that I just want to have the license without having a kid, is there any penalty for that? Like, just to, like, in case I do want to get my friend some formula or something. Yeah. Oh, the fees for the parenting license, where does that go? Because I mean, it's collected by this, a state department, a bureaucracy. So like, what happens? What are some yeah, again, what are some things that might be on the test? What are some topics? Does it cover just babyhood, or like, does it just like all of childhood? up to like age 18? Like, are there morality questions on there? Are there questions like, do you go to church? You know, is this like, well, like what information are you looking for here? You know, um, and so given that this could be a thing, right? That like that, I mean, you know, nothing's out of the realm of possibilities, right? So are how is society? How are we going to deal with the rise in maybe doulas not reporting births, right? Home births particularly. And how are we going to deal with the rise in home births? Because that seems kind of important. Because if you think that people aren't going to be like, peace out, I'm going to do what I want, it's my house, I live here, I live in this country, I know the rules, and I don't care about them, like, what do you want to do about that? And I mean, I think also what's important with having a fee associated with this is understanding who's going to be able to afford that fee. If it's a $200 fee or a $300 or a $500 fee, how are you going to do outreach to the disenfranchised, the part of society that just doesn't like it is disadvantaged, like is just not they're not gonna come around to this, like and you know, they probably do need the support. The important thing to really consider here is, in what context is anyone saying someone should really have a license to have a kid? What they're really saying is that it's probably usually an abuse situation, or in a situation that's like really weird where you're just like, oh, a parent decided to do what now? You know, and like all that goes into it. So given that it's most likely to be associated with someone who has been abusing or neglecting their kids, right, in some way, how do we not have the whole Department of Parenthood or parenting department or parenting warden? That sounds worse. I don't know. I was thinking game warden, parenting warden, like, gotta go register. Uh, I mean, there's all sorts of structures that obviously need to happen. So like for me, there's like the basic level, and of course I know Connecticut pretty well. I know what is available because I volunteer. Like once you start volunteering for stuff, people tell you about more volunteer opportunities, and things I haven't been able to really get into, but like, you know, I know that they exist. So I know about two programs. There's one in Groton. I don't know if that still exists. I'm still friends with the person who runs it, or who used to run it. And I think that was Child First Groton. I want to say that that's what it was, because I think I still talked. Yeah, I definitely had like a couple of things where I was like, oh, there's this Child First Groton thing. And then in Stamford, there's the St. Joseph's Parenting Center. And so two different programs, different, like 2 hours apart. They're not related to each other. They're just two of the ones that I know of, but I think there's so many other different places. It's not like these are the two only that exist in Connecticut. Like there's probably, hopefully, a billion more, but these are the two that I know of. So the Child First Groton one, I remember that they asked me to volunteer my time to create kind of a group parent support group, and my contact there, she had talked to me about like, okay, so we're going to make sure that they have childcare, we're going to make sure that there are treats for the children as well as the adults, and we're just going to try and, you know, just kind of bring people in. And that was like, this is how we do this, and I had to come up with the syllabus to kind of figure out what topics to talk about, what to possibly do. And this was early on in my career. I remember that it didn't work out, and I think it was a funding problem. So it wasn't because like of anything else. I think it was just funding. and timing and schedule and that type of stuff, where it was like, oh yeah, I could do like a Tuesday or Wednesday, but it has to kind of be decided or whatever. And then with the St. Joseph's Parenting Center, it's in one of the well-known community centers where there are a lot of parents, there are a lot of children, and it's in the one that's available for kids under 5, or 5 and under. And it's a part of the Boys and Girls Club. So they have this building. Oh my God, everyone knows where it is. Like, everyone knows where it is. And so one of my friends from Rotary, he goes and he gives a presentation, and he volunteers to run one of the classes, and they always need volunteers. So these are things that you might be able to like figure out in your own community as to whether or not, if like you see that there might be like issues within your community of like abuse or neglect, or parents just really not understanding anything about how to parent, maybe that's something that you can do as well. There's no thing that says like, oh, just because you're not a parent that you can't know anything about parenthood, or offer some guidance or offer some support, or that like you can't go into an existing program and say like, hey, like, here's some things that I've learned along the way from like being an uncle and aunt, so, like, not necessarily a parent, but also maybe some things that you do learn as a parent. Maybe that's helpful for other people to start to learn and figure out and know. So yeah, it's very interesting. There's that aspect of it. If we really want, I think, to like make sure that like people have like the best keys to success, we might have to do more. We might have to be like, hey, can we as a society or as a state or as a city provide some sort of respite for some parents, parent coaching maybe, kind of the one-on-one, here's a coach that can come in and just kind of see how you're doing, and be like, that's a great exchange. Here's how you can make it better. Like, how do you feel about that exchange? That didn't seem like it went the way you wanted. What did you want out of that situation? Here's how you can address that. Like, maybe have a coach for a week, supported by the state or the city or something. Because yes, coaches are amazing, but also I'm like, they can kind of be expensive. So like, if someone is struggling, I don't want to have them added, add the stress of like, okay, so for X amount of money, you can have someone come in daily and teach you how to interact with your kid. There are probably some parents who are super pissed about that, but also probably kind of appreciative of someone coming in and just being like, this is how you can deal with your kid, and have like kind of the one-on-one guide, right? And like always reach out if you like you just don't know what to do when you don't know how to deal with this. The other thing that I would imagine what a lot of parents would need is maybe some sort of like overnight childcare. I've heard that childcare trying to find childcare from infancy, from days old to like let's say like 6 months, I guess, like that's a particular thing in like Connecticut, and like it is not widely available. Which I'm like, how does anyone deal with? Oh my God, I don't know how anyone deals with this. That is not good. So there's that, and that's probably when you kind of need the support the most, with all the sleepless nights and not knowing what you're doing, I would imagine that's probably needed. And also like, again, with respite, like just being like, I need to sleep and I can't. Can you help me? Also some parents work overnight, and I think that's lovely and amazing. And so maybe that's something that can also be offered. I'm thinking more about like single parents, or, any parent can be very stressed out by not getting enough sleep. That requires a lot, like there's so many studies on like, if you do not get enough sleep, you will have diminished like sensibilities, mental capacities, just feelings. Like you could, there's a lot that can happen with sleep deprivation, and some people definitely have sleep deprivation after they have babies. So like maybe that's a thing. Or like, I know some people in in the millennials and Gen Z, once they, like, I mean, there's a lot of people having kids, but like, I'm like, once they start having kids, they've had kids. That can trigger depressive episodes, a lot of anxiety. Or let's say that they went into parenthood with a lot of anxiety. I'm like, oh my God, kudos to you, by the way, if you are one of those parents. My God, congratulations. Thank you for being a parent, knowing that you had anxiety. So some people might start out having anxiety and then have more anxiety with having a baby, and like that can lead to being up for too many hours, of all of the worries. Maybe that's also a point to have respite, or an overnight babysitter, or an overnight child care, or overnight, like, what, night care, not a daycare, right? That would be available, so that like parents can be like, I just need to like have some assistance, and I think that that's okay. I find it amazing that like you go to the hospital, right? If you're gonna have a hospital birth, you have a hospital birth. You're there for a couple of days. They give you a welcome baby, basket and everything, and then they send you home and they're like, good luck, which I'm like, oh my God. So they don't offer any like, we're gonna send the staff person home with you to kind of do more education about like how to do this and how to do that and how to do this and how to do that. Like, I think that can be something maybe insurance companies can offer. Hey, you have a new baby, we will pay for a nurse for a week so that they can guide you through all of the things that you need to do for your apartment, for feeding, for sleeping, for for your health, for their health, for like, here's all the things that you need to, maybe even 2 weeks, maybe a month, I don't know. Like, I'm just knowing insurance companies and how much they would want to pay, and I'm like, nah, I mean, like, asking for 2 months and then negotiating to like a month or 3 weeks sounds very good, all considering. So, maybe that's the way to go with that. And just making sure that parents can handle parenthood, because parenthood is very tough. And I mean, man, I congratulate everyone who wants to be a parent and who loves parenthood, but also there's a lot that goes on with parenthood that is exhausting and frustrating and angering and just a whole lot of other stuff that I'm like, you're willing to put up with that. Congratulations, man. Like, I just, there's a lot to life. And that's amazing that you stepped into that role. So, I think that, and you can definitely add what you think could possibly be, maybe integral into this. And so then you also come across if there are parents who are repeat neglectful or abusive parents, how do we want the system to deal with them? Because in some regard they are too hard, and in some regard they are not hard enough, right? And there was a situation recently, I'm sorry, this is going to be very sad, it's such is life. There's a situation in Stanford. This guy had a restraining order. He was not supposed to see his 8-month-old son. He had already been violent towards this baby who did nothing. Like, it's just amazing to me. He killed that baby and went to the park and like tried to bury that baby. Like, he was caught, but like, he killed a child. And luckily he will see, I already saw court footage, he has seen his day in court. So for someone like that, there's still a possibility he can get someone pregnant. there's still a possibility he can be the biological father of someone. How do we manage with that? Like, what do we do? You know, like, what is it? But I've also counseled women who have had children and have had multiple children taken away from them, and then they didn't, it becomes kind of like, oh no, I'm pregnant again. What do you do in that case? You know, like, are we just going to continue to, like, watch some of these women struggle? Are we going to continue to watch some of these parents, or some of these people, like, continue to have kids but then not have their other kids? Like, or are their kids always going to be taken away? Like, where's kind of the deciding line? Because, like, for me, I'm like, well, if you haven't seen them with kid number 5 but you're willing to take them away right away, I don't know if that's the right thing to do. But, like, I also don't know, you know, like, it seems like such a special case to be like, but if, you know, child, you know, unfortunately, you know, 1 through 4 was taken away within X amount of time, like, then I'm kind of like, well, what are our options at this point, and how bad was the abuse, and can this person be reformed, you know? And kind of what's going on, what's the evaluation, what has happened, you know? And can therapy help this person, and can intensive therapy help this person, and can inpatient therapy help this person, you know, come to a point of, like, not traumatizing, you know? Because all I'm thinking is, like, well, I wonder if it happens, like, you know, if, like, they have the child and then at 6 months they start abuse and neglect, like, is that a continuation of their own abuse and neglect? And how do we deal with that if that's, like, a 6-month-old thing? And, you know, like, how do we manage that? And, you know, maybe so Connecticut and New York have been really good with, like, making sure that their Medicaid programs, so their state insurances are very well rounded, that they can, that people can seek services, that the state pays very well for mental health services. In Connecticut, I do accept the one of the state Medicaid programs in New York. I just haven't had any clients with that insurance yet. But Connecticut, it's like, if you're on what they call the Husky program, because of UConn and the Huskies, if you're on the Husky program, then, like, you don't pay anything for therapy. I get paid, like, I do my billing, I get paid by the state. They pay nothing. So, like, and like, you can be a low income adult. Every child has the insurance, has Husky insurance, and then any low income adult has, and family has the insurance, right? So, like, I know all of those programs, which I'm like, oh yeah, like, I'd like, there probably should be a little bit more access, but, like, overall it's, like, really good. But there are states where therapy costs so much and people aren't taking insurances and all of these other things, where, like, what do you do? You know, like, what do you, how do you manage with that? Where can someone who is struggling that much, maybe has prior trauma, how do you get them to accept therapy? How do you get a program, you know, for the state to be funded so that it can offer program and services and other things for people, you know, and make sure that there's all of these systems set up so that people aren't stressed out, aren't freaking out, aren't doing all of these things that, like, aren't good, obviously, for kids, and kind of figuring out. I think it's really important to try and figure that out and come up with options, you know, because I'm just like, well, these are just my opinions. I mean, like, I'm sure that you guys can come up with something that's like, no, I see it as this way. Like, maybe we need to have classes in high school, or maybe we need to have just more community outreach, or maybe this has to be a part of, like, homeless hospitality, kind of put that in there and be like, and parenting, you know, like, what is it? And I apologize for using homeless. I know it's unhoused. However, it's, the iteration, I guess, alliteration on that, you know, and all the programs still use homeless, unfortunately. So, like trying to really figure out like what is it and how do we manage this without having a license for Parenthood, because I don't know if that would work out. I don't think it would. I don't think it would work out. Man, I can only imagine how many people would be absolutely terrified to be pregnant. At that point, just it's a police state to like, oh my god, like, oh Jesus, isn't that how every like, what is that called? Dystopia starts, is like people can't have kids anymore. Like, oh no, oh no, Anyway, hope that was helpful for you. I hope you were slightly entertained, maybe given some information, and yeah, lots to consider. I hope you have a great day, and I will talk to you soon. All right, thanks. Bye.